Lucas Grayson wasn't used to being ignored. For the last 15 years, his face had been printed on business magazines, Forbes covers, and investment profiles. He was the kind of man who could buy a skyscraper before breakfast and still have time to lecture at Stanford by noon. But that morning, sitting in a rusty old pickup truck in front of Maggie's grill, no one cared who he was. And for once, that felt strangely freeing. He had spent the last few weeks wondering whether the fortune he'd built actually meant anything. He'd been accused of losing touch with real people, his employees, the public, even his own family. When his assistant suggested a PR campaign to improve his image, Lucas laughed. What he needed wasn't a camera crew. He needed perspective. So, he grew out his beard, put on thrift store clothes, and disappeared into a quiet town called Willow Creek, population 3,000, to see what life looked like without money, fame, or influence. The diner was nearly empty when he stepped inside. The faint smell of bacon and coffee lingered in the air, and a young waitress hurried between tables with a tired smile. Her name tag read Emily. She looked about 25, with kind hazel eyes that carried the weight of someone who'd learned life's lessons too early. "Morning," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "You want a menu, or you already know what you're craving?" Lucas smiled faintly. "Just a steak, medium rare. Black coffee. And maybe some peace and quiet." She grinned. "Peace and quiet's free with every order. Steak'll be about 10 minutes. He watched her move between tables, graceful but weary. Her shoes were worn thin, and her hands trembled slightly as she refilled a customer's coffee cup. There was a quiet sadness in her, something Lucas couldn't quite name, the kind of sadness that no amount of small talk could hide. As Lucas ate, he found himself studying her. She treated every customer like they mattered, even the ones who snapped at her or left no tip. When she finally brought his check, it was tucked beneath a folded napkin. He reached for it, and the napkin slipped open, revealing a few handwritten words in smudged ink. He froze. It wasn't a request for money. It wasn't a plea for help. It was something deeper, a message meant for someone she didn't even know. But why him? Emily looked startled when he met her eyes. "Oh, sorry, that wasn't supposed to," she stammered, face flushing red. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm just curious. Why this note?" She hesitated, glancing around before sitting across from him. "It's something I started doing," she admitted. "Leaving little notes for people. You never know what someone's going through, and I guess I hope it helps somehow." Lucas studied her face, her sincerity. "And what about you? Who's helping you?" She smiled faintly. "Some of us don't get that luxury." That answer stuck in his mind long after he left the diner. He sat in his truck for nearly an hour, staring at the note. He could have thrown it away, but something about her words haunted him. That night, Lucas returned. The diner was closing, and Emily was wiping down tables. When she saw him, she looked surprised. "Back for another steak?" she teased. "Back for a story," he said. She frowned, then sighed. "It's not much of one. My mom's sick, cancer. I work double shifts to cover her meds. My brother's in high school, trying to stay out of trouble. It's just life, you know? You do what you have to." Her honesty disarmed him. She didn't complain, didn't ask for pity, she simply accepted her circumstances. For a man who'd spent years surrounded by people pretending to be strong, her quiet resilience hit him like a wave. He left a $100 tip that night. She chased him into the parking lot to return it. "I can't take this," she said. "Yes, you can," he replied. "Think of it as a thank you for the note." She laughed softly. "You're a strange man, you know that?" "You have no idea," he said with a grin. A week passed. Lucas kept coming back, always dressed like the same scruffy traveler, never revealing who he was. They talked between her shifts about life, dreams, regrets. She told him about wanting to open a small bakery someday, and how she'd once been offered a scholarship she couldn't afford to accept. One rainy afternoon, she found him sitting at his usual table, staring at his phone. His expression was distant, almost broken. "Bad news?" she asked gently. "Maybe the best kind," he murmured. "Someone reminded me what really matters." Before she could reply, he stood and handed her an envelope. You once told me to change someone's life if I ever got the chance, he said quietly. I think you were talking about yourself. She frowned in confusion, but he'd already walked out. Inside the envelope was a check, made out for $250,000. Enough to cover her mother's treatment, her brother's college, and a bakery 10 times bigger than her dreams. Attached to it was another note. The next morning, the entire town buzzed with news. Billionaire Lucas Grayson had been seen leaving Willow Creek. Emily nearly dropped her coffee cup when she saw his face on the news broadcast. The man she'd called the quiet traveler wasn't just anyone, he was one of the wealthiest men in America. A month later, Emily's bakehouse opened on the corner of Main Street. The windows were lined with flowers, and the scent of fresh bread filled the air. On opening day, she placed a small glass jar by the counter labeled, "For someone who needs a little hope." Inside it, she started collecting notes from customers, messages of kindness, encouragement, and love.